All right, new gardeners, it is time to talk about transplanting and plant spacing. Okay, so to my right here, I've got a bunch of lettuce heads that I dropped in the soil, I think last week. These are leftover from my field, so I just wanted to tuck them in the greenhouse. But same thing at your house. If you've got a raised bed like this or even garden space, space is at a premium. So in particular, when you go to transplant, you want to make the best use of that space and what you've invested in your soil and keeping that space weed free. And in order to get the best square footage usage for plants, you can plant in a hex pattern like I have over here. And when you plant a whole bunch of the same thing, you always want to pay attention to how much space each plant needs. So for example, cucumbers need larger area per plant than a lettuce head. So in this particular case, one of the tricks that I use is I measure, well, I don't measure it, but I know that from my pinky finger to my thumb is 8.5 inches. So, and that lettuce heads need 6 or 7 inches. So you can see that I went through as I planted them and just used my hand and rotated around, and a little less than what my reach is on my thumb to pinky finger, and got the perfect spacing for those. So same thing, spinach, you can do the same thing with. That's a smaller plant. So you can come right up here and actually, it can go real quick. And you can move right along and plant quite a bit that way. The other thing that I wanted to point out is these are both kale. But obviously this one is a much larger seedling than this one. And one of the things that I've seen new gardeners do a lot is, because this is physically a larger plant at the point in which you want to transplant it, that you give this one more space than this one, for example. But what you want to remember is that they both require the same, because they're both kale, they both require about 18 inches per plant at maturity. So in order to get the most out of each one of these plants, you have to plant them 18 inches apart. So in my case, 2 hands and then a little bit, right? So I'll start one right here, and then I'll go over a little bit with this other one. I just lost my spot. And then again with the hex pattern. So maybe like here, one. And this is a cauliflower, which same thing, they'll take up, the cauliflower plants will take up a big space. So you want to leave plenty of room for these to grow. So you can see that was only 4 plants right there, and that takes up a big area and it looks really barren. So these are long-standing plants. They're going to take a while to mature. So you can go in with something quick like spinach and plant all around, because these are going to be quick to mature, and then you'll harvest it. And then the cauliflower and kale will grow in around it. So if you have any questions about that, I've intentionally used examples of cool weather crops because that's what you should be planting right now. It's the end of April. But if you have more questions about that, drop questions down in the comments below. Happy gardening.